Hey guys, Carl from Purple Misplaced. Today I'm taking a look at Unlock Kids detective stories from designer Cyril Demaegd as well as Marie and Wilfried Fort and publisher Space Cow, the kids sort of division of Space Cowboys. This is the first in the sort of new kids-focused spin-off series of the Unlock sort of puzzle or escape room in a box kind of games. I happen to be a really big fan of the original Unlock series. I've played almost every single one of them except maybe the board game one. I think everything else I've played, and I've always been a big fan of it. So when I heard there was a new kids line coming out, and with my son being so excited recently about playing board games, I thought it would be a good opportunity to try this one out and just see sort of what it brings to the table differently from the sort of core main series of games. No real disclaimer needed on this one as this is not a review copy from the publisher, but I did pick this up with a credit from Noble Knight Games. Noble Knight Games, if you don't know, is a brick and mortar and online board game retailer or tabletop game as well, retailer in Wisconsin. Great online presence, great trade-in system where you sort of send your list of games, they price it for you, they pay shipping, you send it off to get cash or credit in their store, which means they've also got a great selection of used and hard to find games on their site as well. Anyway, they do sponsor this channel, which means a couple of things. First, it means that I do have an affiliate link. So if you are looking to help out the channel in any way, if you do decide to go shopping at Noble Knight, please remember to use the link down below in the description of all my videos. But also it means they give me a small credit to their store every month. And I did use some of that credit to pick this up to see how it goes. So this game was sponsored by Noble Knight, but again, no disclaimer because the publisher had no connection with that arrangement. With all that said, let's head down to the table to see how this game plays, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. All right, so as this is a puzzle game, I'm going to do things slightly differently than I normally do with my gameplay playthroughs or overviews. I'm going to show you what's in the box, and then I'm going to sort of play through. There is a demo in this box, so I'll play through the demo so you can see exactly how it works. But I want to point out just to show you all the stuff that comes in this box. There are the rules, obviously, in this box. But something unique about Unlock Kids related to the sort of main line of Unlock games is that the Unlock Kids games are completely off of devices. There's no device app required, there's no internet access required, and you'll even see the hints or the sort of walkthrough for each of the puzzles is here in a physical book rather than online. And then you'll see that in the box there are sort of 3 different sets, just like a normal Unlock game in that you've got 3 different games, except that that's not fully true here. For each of these slots, you're actually given 2 different games. So you'll see first these 2, this birthday party and this sort of newspaper article tie into the first set of stuff. I'm sorry, the order is slightly different. Tie into this first set of stuff. This map and these tickets tie into 2 separate adventures using this set of stuff. And then these 2 here tie into, and that's being upside down, tie into this set of stuff here in the middle. And what you can see is that every set of this Unlock Kids, because there is no app, consists of both a deck of cards just like the normal Unlock games, but then also a set of tokens as well that you are going to use to interact with the game in different ways as you play. So as I said, I am going to play through this tutorial just so you get an idea of how it works without spoiling any of the actual game that you would actually play were you to buy this game and play through it. Because I don't want to spoil any of the puzzles because, well, that's the whole point of Unlock. But I do want to show you how the system works and how the system is different from the sort of grown-up normal line of Unlock games. So here we go. We've got the tutorial card. It says, "Welcome to Unlock Kids. With this tutorial, you will learn how to play Unlock Kids without having to read the rules." Great. Your mission, find the components you will need to play the adventures that lay out ahead. Start by spreading all the tutorial components face down on the table. Don't look through them. So we've got 2 tokens here, number 6 and number 8. And it does say flip this card over, but I want to show you when you play grown-up Unlock games, the cards are sort of in a random order. I mean, they're always organized by this value down here in the corner, but otherwise the value or letter or whatever symbol is printed on the cards is completely random in the grown-up version. In the kids version, these are in order. And you'll see sometimes they skip, but very often that means there's a token matching that number. So anyway, I'm going to set those down, and we will flip this over and start reading here. It says, after a nice long stroll through Coco's Island, you reach a cabin that looks abandoned. So each time you see a number, you can flip the matching component over. So you can flip over cardboard number 8, as well as cards 11, 2, and 3. And when you see this symbol like this, it means those two cards fit together to make some kind of scene. So let's go ahead and do that. 8 is this pointer finger, which you will see in a lot of the adventures in this box. And then it says cards 2, 3, and 11. So as it mentions in that instruction, 2 and 3 are a scene that do fit together to make a picture like that. Then number 11 is this here, and this is the unique system for Unlock Kids that makes it different than regular Unlock and allows it to do very interesting things without needing an online component. It says this is the symbols table. Important, do not flip over the components matching these numbers right away. 2 half symbols form a complete symbol whether on cards, items, or both. Once you have assembled one of these symbols, reveal the component corresponding to the indicated number. All right, so just looking here, I see a 6 on the table, which if I flip it over is a key with a part of a symbol. And you saw before that the pointer finger also has a part of a symbol. And now reading what it says, this is again very blatantly obvious what to do because this is supposed to be teaching the game as well. But it says, on the cabin's table you find a key. Flip over the matching cardboard item, which I just did is a 6. Then take a closer look at the backpack. If you find its hidden number, flip the matching component over. So just like the grown-up Unlock game, sometimes you will find hidden numbers inside of things. And you can see here on the backpack, the straps look like the number 7. So I will then take the number 7, and you'll see a backpack. And this is going to be the other really cool and unique feature of Unlock Kids, is that you're finding hidden items. The hidden numbers in this game don't tie into the puzzle because they don't want to punish the kids for missing anything that's hidden in the picture. Instead, it's sort of like a find a hidden item kind of puzzle that kids would play in a book or what have you, that when you find the item, you're sort of scoring points by finding those hidden things scattered around. So here it says, this star means you just gained 1 star. In the course of your adventures, you will gain star cards when finding hidden numbers. They won't be of use for the adventure itself, but will determine your score at the end of the game. You can find hidden numbers anywhere, so stay alert. So now I have a star, so that will be sort of 1 point at the end of the game. Now it says I found 2 half symbols. I can perform an action at these very spots by assembling them. Well, I see a lock here, and I see that I've got a key. So maybe I can use the key to open that lock. And the way that that works is you have to line up the symbols so that they make a boxed in full symbol like that. And then if you look at this card that is your sort of decoder, you will see that the symbol I just made is that one right there. If I put this next to that, you can see, sorry, it's hard to line it up on camera without seeing quite what I'm doing, but that symbol is that symbol which does equate to card number 9. So taking card number 9, it now tells me to get rid of 2, 3, and 6. So I don't need those anymore. That goes away, 2, 3 go away. It means I didn't need to do anything at all with the window that was just there as a red herring to get me to try and do something. All right, so bravo, you unlock the padlock. X means that you must discard the components you will no longer use, which I just did. 2, 3, and 6 got discarded. It says now take card 4. So here is card 4. And here's another sort of semi-unique thing. I say semi because it's still using the symbols, but some of the cards are marked with this question mark finger on it. And when you see that, it says that you need to use that finger to make a choice. So right now I need to make a choice between either the Unlock board game, which this is a demo for, or some kind of magical floating sock. Well, clearly I'm here to play the game, and this is teaching me how to play the game, so I will put that right there, making a new symbol, which if we do look here, says number 12. So going back into my deck, pulling out card number 12, and it says here, this is the final card. The trophy symbol indicates you completed your mission. Now tally the number of stars you found to determine what your score is. So you will always get 1 star on the sort of finished mission card, but then the other stars you got are from finding those hidden things scattered throughout. So in this case, it says in this tutorial, there's only 1 hidden number and 2 stars to be gained, including the one on this car. What's your score? So we got 2 points from those 2 cards. So we did get the full score. Now let's meet at card 13 to find out which adventures lay ahead. All right, so here it says, congratulations, you now know how to play Unlock Kids. Open the box and lift the cardboard tray. Surprise. Now, I already had all of this stuff pulled out of there because I actually picked this up secondhand and completely forgot that that was underneath the tray originally. But the point is, now you've seen all of that stuff already, but this is all of the things you need to play the game. And it would have been hidden the first time. So it really is a great onboarding sort of system to play through this demo and to sort of open up the experience for kids to play moving forward sort of into the main challenges or main missions of this game. And just to show you, if we had chosen either of those other things, meaning trying to use the key on the window, would have given us this error card. And here it says this is an error card. Revealing this card means you didn't make the right choice. You can't use the key to open the window. What else can you unlock? So it gives you hints about what you should be doing. And this isn't causing any kind of negatives of a timer like it does in the base game. It simply says, nope, sorry, that's a mistake. So giving the children a push that something wasn't right, but also giving them the chance to correct and fix and do what they're supposed to have done. Same thing if I had picked the glowing sock. Again, here though is a penalty card. And a penalty card is an error, but it also subtracts 1 star. So it says some error cards can cause you to lose stars at the end of adventure, so be wise when making choices. So there are some repercussions to making a poor choice. In this case, even if I had found these 2 stars, because I had triggered this penalty card, I'm going to lose 1 of my stars and my final score will be less. Now I still do beat the game, but just like with the regular Unlock games where you're sort of trying to score stars based on how fast you did it, how many hints you used, and so on, same thing here, you're scoring points by finishing the mission, finding secret things, and avoiding as many errors as possible. So that's basically all I want to show you. I already showed you there are 3 sets of cards, just like a normal Unlock game, except that each of those sets of cards has 2 adventures that can be played using that same deck of cards and components that go along with them. So that's all I'm going to show you here. As far as the components are concerned, I'll talk more about this in my final thoughts because it does tie directly into how the game plays. But this usage of these physical cardboard components with half symbols on cards and other components to make full symbols, really, really cool idea for me. Physically, everything works. The artwork in these games is wonderful, just like the grown-up Unlock games have been as well. There's not much else for me to say about the components. You've already seen sort of how everything fits nicely into the box. Big fan of the components in this game. Now maybe back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the experience itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough of that tutorial, and I hope that gave you a good idea of sort of how this game plays, and also if you're familiar with the original Unlock series, how this series differs from the core main line of games. As I mentioned up top, I have played through nearly all of the Unlock boxes, and I've enjoyed pretty much all of my experiences with all of them, playing through the majority of them solo, but many of the earlier ones I also played with my wife or my family. Really, really great games, and I've always been somewhat surprised and excited by how much this game series continues to remain fresh, even though it's sort of the same usage of the same kind of cards to solve similar kinds of puzzles and so on. But every time I play, the theme and the new twists and the new sort of extra mechanism kind of stuff they throw in continues to impress me. And I've noticed that more and more the newer versions of the Unlock games are getting heavier and heavier into using the app for things, different kinds of ways that you can interact with the cards using your phone, different kinds of games you can play on the phone that somehow connect back to what you're doing on the cards and so on. So when I heard from somebody else, but also when I opened this box and saw that this game uses no app, no internet, no nothing, I was first sort of taken aback by thinking, how is this going to work? How is this going to remain fresh? How is this going to be interesting? Sort of taking a step back, going back to the sort of older versions of Unlock. But then I dove into the first game with my kids, and I should mention here, I did play through all of these games with my 5-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter, and they both had a blast playing through, so big thumbs up from the kid audience on this one. But we played through our first adventure, and I was very, very impressed by how much they were able to do without using that app, and how much the game still threw in different twists on mechanisms and threw in different ways to come at puzzles that I'd never seen before in any of the main series Unlock games. And this is a very unique and interesting beast of its own, completely separate from, well, not completely separate because it still uses the idea of the cards and putting cards together to do things, but very separate from the sort of main line of grown-up games that they've already been putting out a ton of. And I have to say that I am somewhat blown away by how amazingly designed these puzzles are, the stories are. So there are, another thing that's, before I get into how the game plays, impressive about this box is that in the core line of games, most of the sort of way that they've sort of fallen onto now, the releases generally consist of 3 adventures, 3 puzzles, games inside each box. There are basically 3 decks of cards, and each of those decks of cards connects to an adventure of some kind, themed differently for each deck. Well, in the kids' version, at least in this box, and I assume that it continues moving into the next boxes, there are still 3 decks of cards, but now they're throwing in sort of punchboard components as well, which I'll get to in just a minute. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's not just 3 adventures here. Now you've got 6 adventures with 3 different decks of cards. And each of those decks of cards now has 2 adventures associated with it. You start with a sort of different introductory object, be a postcard or a map or what have you, an amusement park ticket, and so on, that ties into different adventures using the same deck of cards. And what that means is you sort of have a themed world or a themed adventure setting that they can then tell multiple stories inside of, which is really, really cool. So the first set is sort of themed around a farm, and you've got a story about a chicken being kidnapped, and then another story about sort of sending out birthday invitations for a birthday that's happening for one of the animals on the farm. The second one is themed at this sort of old castle by the water. And the first journey, you're sort of looking to find a hidden treasure. And the second journey, you're looking to capture photographic evidence of this ghost who lives in the castle. And then the third set is themed around a sort of amusement park. In the first one, you're looking for a pirate's treasure at the park. And in the second one, this cowboy lady, Calamity Jane, is sort of taken over, and you're looking to sort of fight against her. But it's really interesting, before I even get into how the game plays, it's really cool how they've taken a single deck of cards, a single setting, a single theme, and then come up with 2 completely different adventures that use that same set of cards in different ways. And I'll come back to the sort of how they get used in just a minute, because I do want to talk about the main sort of mechanism here. And the main mechanism is turn over cards, find things hidden in those cards that let you turn over new cards or now get objects. And these objects allow you to interact with the cards in new ways. So instead of combining numbers and adding numbers together, you don't need to have the math here that you need to have in the original game. Now, granted, the math in the original game wasn't hard. It was just adding 2-digit numbers together. But this is designed for kids, and we can't expect them to understand higher level addition, even if it's not that complicated. What they've done here instead is somewhat brilliant. They've created these sort of shapes that are almost kind of QR code-like, that they've cut into 2 pieces. And sometimes you'll find them on cards that connect together to make a symbol. Sometimes you'll put an object on top of a card to make a full symbol. Sometimes you'll put 2 objects together to make a full symbol. And then that symbol, or a list of all of those symbols, is printed on whatever that sort of starting documentation is for that specific chapter. And based on what that symbol is, there's a number next to it, and that number will tell you what card or what object to take next. So you have to be able to find symbols that fit together, and just like in the original game where you can randomly add things together and come up with incorrect answers, here you can randomly put things together and come up with a symbol that connects to a number, And then that number is just an error card or a penalty card based on, that incorrect usage of whatever it is that you were trying to use. And that's really, really clever way to sort of skirt the issue of needing to use math to puzzle things together and now turning it into a physical combination of things to make a picture that then is then used to check to continue the story. And it really works very well. And it works very well in a variety of different ways because now these items sort of physically moving in space means something. Maybe I have to turn something upside down to combine with something else, and physically I am turning that something else over in the world of the game, which is meaningful that the object is upside down. And different objects may have different symbols based on different directions of the object, and depending on how you rotate it, it connects to the symbol in different ways. There are a variety of different ways those objects are used in the game, and I don't really want to ruin any of that for you. But I just want to point out how blown away I was by this combined to make a symbol system. And what was also interesting about this is the same items could be used in more than one story in that setting. I said there were 2 stories per setting. You could use the same item for both of those because the list of codes is a different list of codes for each of those stories. So that starting documentation is different for each story, which means the codes are different. So even if I connect the same object to the same symbol, because I have a different list of codes, it could lead to a different card in that deck that didn't come out in the previous story. And it could mean that some of the same locations and some of the same objects repeat between the 2 stories, but lead to completely different things based on the way that those codes work. And I think that's a really brilliant usage of sort of re-implementing components, keeping the component size small, and still allow for branching or changing narratives depending on the story that you're playing. And it's very well done here. And I think it's really, really interesting to see it play out. The other fun thing here is, in the original Unlock series, there's a lot of sort of hidden numbers that you need to find in order to find something special to continue the story. Well, those hidden numbers are still here, except now those hidden numbers are not required to finish the story, which is great because if a younger child is playing this and they don't see those, it's not going to prevent them from finishing the story and getting this sort of satisfying conclusion that they want. But it's a sort of scoring system because what's also missing here is there's no time limit anymore, which is great because you don't want to rush a kid to solve a puzzle. You want to give them as much time and as much sort of assistance as you can so that they can finish that puzzle and feel good for having finished that puzzle. So getting rid of the timer is great, specifically because there is no more app, so there's no way to track that timer without some other outside thing. So getting rid of the timer, the score is now related to these hidden numbers. And when you find the hidden numbers, you find some kind of hidden item, and that item somehow ties in thematically to the story that you're playing through. For example, the birthday party invitation story, the hidden items you're finding are birthday presents to give to the birthday boy when you get to the party at the end of the story. Really, really cool connection, but also a really fun sort of Where's Waldo search for the missing object kind of search puzzle that the kids can play out. And the really interesting thing about that is you can make it all the way to the end of the story, realize that, oh, I've just triggered the end game and I still don't have all the stars that I know I can possibly have. All of the cards that have hidden numbers on them do not get discarded as you're playing. So they're still on the table, which means even as you get to the end and clear that chapter, you can go back and find all of the things that you were missing, and it sort of pushes you to try to find everything instead of punishing you for missing something along the way. All of these designs, all of these choices really work very well to sort of encourage kids to solve these puzzles, to push and figure things and do more than they might be able to do given a more sort of pressurized pushing kind of system. This is a much more casual, open world, explore and figure out the sort of story while finding hidden things along the way. And I applaud these guys for everything they've done in this box. I should point out it's not just hidden numbers. I got messed up a little bit in one of the adventures myself looking for some of the hidden stuff because there's also the potential for hidden pieces of symbols that you can use items to find, which makes me even more excited because I'm an adult and I played through with some kids, and yes, I helped them solve some of the puzzles, but I was surprised how much a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old were able to get done in this on their own, but also how much I, as an adult, still enjoyed the puzzles in this box. Now, would I buy this for just an adult to solve on their own? Maybe not, because it's not super challenging, but visually it looks great. The stories were a lot of fun. It was still fun figuring out all the puzzles, even if they weren't always the hardest puzzles. And yes, the difficulty still grows as you move through the challenges or the stories in this box, which means by the end it's not incredibly hard, but compared to the original stories, the first 2 stories on the farm in this game, things got much more complicated, much more creative, using interlocking pieces and so on. I'm very excited to continue looking at this series. I don't know that I'll come back to the channel with a video for each of them, because ultimately I'm going to be saying the same things aside from whatever small changes are made. But there are a few more of these kids games. As I said, I've played through most of the main series Unlock games, and now I definitely am going to bring my kids along for the journey to play through as many of these kids Unlock games as possible. Huge thumbs up from me on this one. If you do have kids, if you are a fan of these Unlock games, if you are a fan of escape rooms, puzzles, and so on, absolutely check this one out. I can't recommend this one more than I'm doing right now. Great game. Definitely check it out. That's basically all I have to say. I hope that this video was helpful for you. As always, if it was, I do ask that you remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time.